I used to think patience was my greatest strength. People told me I had the kind of calm that could outlast a storm, that I was the type of man who never raised his voice, never argued, never fought. At first, I wore that reputation like a badge of honor. I thought patience meant wisdom, that waiting meant peace, that silence meant strength. But I've learned something far more complicated. Patience has a limit, and when you let others push you past that line without standing up for yourself, it stops being a virtue and becomes a trap. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone. My father was a quiet man, a factory worker who kept his head down and did what he was told. He believed in enduring hardship without complaint, and I inherited that from him. My mother, on the other hand, would whisper to me when my father wasn't listening, "Patience is good, but don't let people mistake it for weakness." At the time, I didn't understand. I thought patience and weakness were opposites. I was wrong. For most of my life, I tried to be the man who kept the peace. In high school, when kids mocked me for being too quiet, I laughed it off. When I worked long hours at my first job and my boss piled extra work on me without pay, I stayed late and said nothing. When friends borrowed money and never paid me back, I pretended I had forgotten. I told myself patience was a way of keeping the world calm, of avoiding unnecessary conflict. But deep down, I could feel something building inside me. It was like water filling a container. Every ignored insult, every unfair demand, every quiet moment of resentment, it was all pouring into me, drop by drop. And though the container was large, it wasn't infinite. The moment that changed me came on a gray Tuesday morning. I worked in an office then. Not glamorous, just rows of cubicles under buzzing fluorescent lights. My manager, Mr. Carter, had a way of singling me out. Maybe he saw me as the man who never said no, the man who would always stay late, always pick up the slack, always swallow his pride. That morning he called me into his office. He didn't look up from his computer screen as he said, "I need you to cover for Daniel again. He's out." Daniel was always out, and I was always the one covering. I opened my mouth to say something, but Mr. Carter cut me off. "I'll need you to stay late tonight. And tomorrow, too. We're behind on numbers. Make it happen." I remember standing there, my hands tightening at my sides. My heart was racing, not because of fear, but because of something else, anger. Years of swallowed frustration pressed against my chest, and yet I nodded. I walked back to my desk and worked like always. But that night, as I sat alone in the office, my patience finally cracked. I stared at the papers on my desk and thought about all the times I had said yes when I wanted to say no. All the times I had endured when I should have spoken. I thought about how patience, the thing I had been so proud of, had turned me into someone who allowed himself to be used. That realization burned through me like fire. The next morning, I made a choice. When Carter called me into his office again, with another demand, I didn't nod. I didn't agree. I looked him in the eye and said, "No." The silence that followed was heavy. He blinked, shocked, as though I had spoken in another language. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I'm not staying late. I'm not covering for Daniel. I've been doing his work for months while you look the other way. I've been patient, too patient. That stops today." For a second, I thought he might explode, but instead he leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You're replaceable, you know." I swallowed, my pulse pounding. "Maybe, but I'd rather walk out with dignity than stay here without it." I left his office, expecting the worst. But what happened next surprised me. Carter didn't fire me. He didn't yell. Instead, he reassigned the work fairly. Daniel was called in and held accountable. And me? For the first time in my life, I felt free. Not because I had lost patience, but because I had discovered its true limit. That moment rippled into the rest of my life. I started saying no when I needed to. Not cruelly, not angrily, but firmly. I stopped loaning money to people who never paid it back. I stopped letting friends walk all over me. I stopped waiting for change and started making it happen myself. patience is still a part of me. I believe in listening before reacting, in waiting before judging, in holding back before anger. But patience has boundaries. Without them, you're not practicing patience, you're practicing self-erasure. And no life lesson has been harder or more necessary for me to learn than this. If you don't set the limits of your patience, someone else will. I share this story because maybe you, like me, have spent years swallowing words you should have spoken. Maybe you've convinced yourself that patience means letting others take advantage of you, or that silence equals strength. But I promise you, there will come a day when your patience runs out. When it does, don't be afraid. Stand tall. Say no. Draw the line. Because your dignity, your voice, your peace of mind, those are worth more than the comfort of others. And if there's one truth I've carried from that day in my manager's office to every decision I've made since, it's this. Patience is a virtue, but only when you choose it freely. When it's forced on you, it's a cage. And every cage deserves to be broken.